Good and fair evening, friends and companions. Welcome back to the tavern. For the first time, probably in centuries, we are early. And let's see, who all do we have with us today? We've got Molly Sue, we've got Sword Talk, we've got Teresa, we've got Capitan Hoodie, we've got Herring, we've got Frost. Welcome in, my friends, welcome. So very glad that you could join us. What a beautiful day. Look at it. I'm going to have to put out a poll this next week for. It's being dumb. Uh, Over on TikTok, it's being dumb, anyways. I'm going to put out a poll for what our next book is going to be because we are damn near the end. If you can believe it. Now, before I get into reading, I want everybody to know it is going to be a short read night tonight. The lady and I have an obligation that we have to go and see to, that we must leave here by 7 p.m. our time, so 7 p.m. Pacific Standard. Seth it on. It'll be in the lore channel where I've had the rest of them. So I'll tag the whole of the guild when it comes time. I will actually. So let's see. We are on page 290. We have less than 50 pages left until the end. So it's very likely. Yeah, I'll put out the poll this week because by next week we will have to have a new book for the adult point. And I think with Harry Potter as well, we're on the last 4 chapters. So we'll probably need a poll for that as well to see if we move on to Deathly Hollows or not. Which, by the way, I have never read Deathly Hollows. I stopped at book 6 for Harry Potter. Looks like my thing here is not scrolling. Darth Nexus, Big Ed, hello my friend. I don't know why this is not scrolling, but it's not scrolling. Oh well, it is what it is. Something's just not working today. Darth Nexus, thank you for the hard me, my friend. I appreciate your tips to the tavern keeper, always appreciated. And the Go Populars are certainly appreciated as well. Alright, my friends, well, I think I've given everyone a bit of time to trickle in. What do you say we get going? Now, you all will remember when we last left off, we were with Pug and his party on the Kelawon homeworld. Petra, hello, hello. How are things in the tavern? Things in the tavern are quite well, Petra. Thank you for asking. I appreciate you for that. The lady and I are finally back on our regular work schedule. Not yet back on a regular sleep schedule, sadly, but we are back on a regular work schedule. So that has us getting things done at a pace that we are almost happy with. And that is a damn fine thing. Valkyrie, love, hello, good to see you, welcome in. So when we last left off, Pug and Meacham and Dominic were all trapped in a prison, held by the warlord of the Surani, who's essentially trying to usurp the Emperor. And Pug was using meditation to practice the lesser path of magic. Now, if, just as a refresher, if you do not remember, the lesser path of magic is the path of magic that was studied on Pug's homeworld, which is what most of them knew. And it wasn't until Pug came back with a greater knowledge of magic that we basically discovered that there were 2 different types of magic. And it seems like Pug is in the process of discovering that the lesser path may not be aptly named. Marissa Love, hello, good to see you. So, let us return to Kelawon and see what Pug and his companions are up to. Time had passed. Pug didn't know how long, but he assumed it was 4 hours past sunset, the time the warlord had set for interrogation. Guards entered the cell, unshackling Meacham, Dominic, and Pug. Hocho Pepper was left behind. Hocho Pepper is one of the Black Robes, one of the magicians from Kelowon. He's been imprisoned erroneously because you're not allowed to do that to the Great Ones on Kelowon, which is why the warlord's playing a dangerous game here. They were marched to a room equipped with devices of torture. The warlord stood resplendent in green and golden robes, speaking to the magician Agoron. A man in a red hood waited silently while the three prisoners were shackled to pillows in the room, situated so that they could see one another. Against my better judgment, Agoron and Elgahar have convinced me it would be beneficial to keep you alive, though each has different reasons. Elgahar seems inclined to believe that your story somewhat, at least enough to think it prudent to learn all we may. Elgaron and I are not so disposed, but there are other things we wish to know. Therefore, we shall begin to ensure we have only truth from you. He signaled to the Inquisitor, who tore Dominic's robes from him, leaving him wearing only a loincloth. The Inquisitor opened a sealed pot and took out a stick heavy with some whitish substance. He daubed some on Dominic's chest, and the monk stiffened. Without metal, the Surani had developed methods of torture different from those used on Midkemia, but equally as effective. The substance was a sticky caustic that began to blister the skin as soon as it was administered. Dominic screwed his eyes shut and bit back a cry. For reasons of economy, we thought you'd be more likely to tell us the truth if your companions were given attention first. From what your former compatriots tell us, and from that unforgivable outburst at the Imperial Games, you seem to have a compassionate nature, Malamba. Will you tell us the truth? Everything I've told you is true, Warlord. Torturing my friends will not change that. Master! Came a cry. The Warlord looked at the Inquisitor. What? This man, look! Dominic had lost his pained expression. He hung from the pillar, beatific, peace upon his face. Elgaron stepped up before the monk and examined him. He's in some manner of trance. Both the warlord and magician looked at Pug, and the magician said, What tricks does this false priest practice, Malamba? He's no priest of Hantukama, true, but he is a cleric of my world. He can place his mind at rest regardless of what occurs to his body. The warlord nodded towards the Inquisitor, who removed the sharp knife from the table. He stepped before the monk and, with a sudden cut, sliced open his shoulder. Dominic did not move, not even an involuntary twitch in reaction. Using pincers, the Inquisitor took a hot coal and applied it to the cut. Again, the monk did not react. The Inquisitor put away his pincers and said, It is useless, Master. His mind is blocked away. We've had this problem with priests before. Pug's brow furrowed. While not free of politics, the temples tended to be circumspect in their relationship with the High Council. If the warlord had been interrogating priests, that indicated movement on the part of the temples towards those allied against the war party. For Hocho Pepper's ignorance of this fact, it also meant the warlord was moving covertly and had stolen the march on his opposition. As much as anything, this told Pug that the Empire was in serious straits. Even now, poised on the brink of civil war, the assault upon those who stood with the Emperor would come soon. This one's no priest, said Elgaron, coming up to Meacham. He looked up at the tall Franklin. He's a simple slave, so he should prove more manageable. Meacham spit full in the magician's face. Egeron, used to the unhesitating fear and respect due a great one, was as stunned as if he had been clubbed. He staggered back, wiping the spittle from his face. Enraged, he said coldly, "You've earned a slow and lingering death, slave." Meacham smiled. For the first time, Pug could remember, a broad grin almost leering. His face was rendered impossibly demonic by the scar on his cheek. "It was worth it, you genderless mule."
What was that?
Oh, there was Meacham spit on somebody, and he said, the guy said he's going to kill him. And so Meacham responded, "It was worth it, you genderless mule."
Okay. So meat.
Well, I am on a clock, but Duncan, hello. Mindy, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see you all. Grab your seats and settle in. Fuzzy Hippie, if you're joining us for the live, welcome in. So very glad you could join us on YouTube. Let's see. All right. Oop, I forgot to bring this up, just in case. Are you okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Just took a while. Oh, you back to work?
Well, I've had one here on the desk, it's just been buried under things. Quirt, hello, my friend. Welcome, welcome. Genderless mule is a glorious insult. It is indeed. Matty, hello, my friend. Good to see you. Welcome in. I came to a very sobering realization that about my laptop, I realized it only has 256 gig SSD and only has 16 gigs of RAM. That would be limiting, Frost. I've been having a hell of a day. I snuck in. That's all right. Unic. That is essentially what the insult was, Herring. It's a very good one. All right, where was I? In his anger, Meacham had spoken in the king's tongue, but the tone of the insult was not lost on the magician. He reached over and pulled a sharp blade from the Inquisitor's table and slashed a long furrow along Meacham's chest. The Franklin stiffened, his face draining of color as the wound began to bleed. Egeron stood before him in triumph, and then the mid came in spit again. The Inquisitor turned to the warlord. "Master, the Great One is interfering with delicate work." The magician stepped back, letting the knife drop. He again wiped the spittle from his face. As he had returned to the warlord's side with hatred in his voice, he said, "Don't be too hasty in speaking what you know, Malamba. I wish to carry in a long session." Pug struggled to battle the magic neutralizing properties of the bracelets upon his wrists, but to no avail. The Inquisitor began to work upon Meacham, but the stoic Franklin refused to cry out. For half an hour the Inquisitor practiced his bloody trade, until at last Meacham sounded a strangled groan and passed out into semi-unconsciousness. The warlord said, "Why have you returned, Malamba?" Pug, feeling Meacham's pain as if it were his own, said, "I've told you the truth." He looked at Ergeron. "You know it's the truth." He knew his plea fell on deaf ears, for the enraged magician wished Meacham to suffer for spite, not caring that Pug had told it all. The warlord indicated to the Inquisitor that he was to begin upon Pug. The red-hooded man tore Pug's robes open. The pot of caustic was opened and the small daub was applied to Pug's chest. Years of hard work as a slave in the swamp had left Pug a lean, muscled man, and his body tensed as the pain began. At the first daub there had been no sensation, and then, an instant later, the pain seared his flesh as the chemicals in the paste reacted. Pug could almost hear his skin blister. The warlord's voice cut through the pain. "Why have you returned? Whom have you contacted?" Pug closed his eyes against the fire on his chest. He sought refuge in the calming exercises Kogan had taught him as an apprentice. Another daub of paste and another fire erupted, this time on the sensitive flesh inside his thigh. Pug's mind rebelled and sought to find refuge in magic. Again and again he battled to break through the barrier imposed by the magic limiting bracelets. In his youth, he had been able to find his path to magic only under great stress. When his life had been threatened by trolls, he had found his first spell. When battling Squire Roland, he had lashed out magically when he had destroyed the Imperial Games. It had been from a deeply held well of anger and outrage. Now his mind was an enraged animal, bouncing off the bars of a magically imposed cage. And like an animal, he reacted blindly, striking against the barrier again and again, determined either to be free or to die. The hot coals placed against his flesh, and he screamed. It was an animal cry, mix of pain and rage, and his mind lashed out. His thoughts became blurred, as if he existed in a landscape of reflecting surfaces, a mad spinning room of mirrors, each casting back an image. He saw the kitchen boy of Crydy looking back at him in one surface, then Cogan's student in another. In a third there was a young squire, and the fourth a slave in a Shinzawi camp. But in the reflections, behind the reflections, the mirrors seen within the mirrors, in each he saw a new thing. Behind the boy in the kitchen he saw a man, a servant. But there was no doubt who the man was. Pug, without magic, without training, grown to manhood as a simpler member of the castle's serving staff, laboured in the kitchen. Behind the image of the young squire he saw a kingdom noble, with Princess Carline upon his arm, his wife. His mind whirled. He frantically sought something. He studied the image of Cogan's student. Behind him he saw a reflected image of an adult practitioner of the lesser art. In his mind, Pug spun, seeking the origin of that reflected image within his image. Of the Pug grown to be a master of the lesser magic. Then he saw the source of that image, a possible future never realized, a chance of fate having diverted his life from that outcome. But in the alternate probabilities of his life, he found what he sought. He found an escape. Suddenly he understood. A way was opened to him, and his mind fled down that path. His eyes snapped open, and he looked past the red-hooded figure of the Inquisitor. Meacham hung groaning against conscious, while Dominic was still lost in a trance. Pug used a mental ability to turn off his awareness of the injury done to his body, and in an instant he stood without feeling the pain. Then his mind reached towards the black-robed figure of Ergoran. The great one of the Empire almost staggered as Pug's gaze locked on his own. For the first time in memory, a magician of the greater path employed a talent of the lesser path. And Pug engaged Ergoran with a contest of wills. With mind-shattering force, Pug overwhelmed the magician, stunning him instantly. The black-robed figure sagged for a moment until Pug took control of his body. Closing his own eyes, Pug now saw through Ergoran's. He adjusted his senses, then had complete control of the Surani Great One. Ergoran's hand shot forward, and a cascade of energy sprang from his fingers, striking the Inquisitor from behind. Red and purple lines of force danced along the man's body as he arched and shrieked. Then the Inquisitor danced across the room like a mad puppet, his movements jerky and spastic as he cried out in agony. The warlord stood briefly stunned and then screamed, "Ergoran! What insanity is this?" He grabbed the magician's robes, and the Inquisitor slammed against the far wall and fell to the stone floor. The instant the warlord came into contact with the magician, the painful energies ceased to strike the Inquisitor and engulfed the warlord. Axang Tukar writhed as he fell backward from the onslaught. The Inquisitor rose from the floor, shaking his head to clear it, and staggered backward towards the captives. The red-hooded torturer pulled a slender knife from the table, sensing Pug to be the author of his pain. He stepped towards Pug, but Meacham gripped his chains and hoisted himself up with a heave. Meacham reached out and encircled the Inquisitor's neck in his legs. With a scissors grip, he held the struggling Inquisitor, squeezing with tremendous power. The Inquisitor struck Meacham's leg with a knife, slashing it across the flesh over and over, but Meacham kept the pressure on. Again and again the knife cut, until Meacham's legs were covered with his own blood, but the Inquisitor could not cut deeply with the slick blood with a blood-slick little knife. Meacham only gave a joyous cry of victory, and then a grunt and a jerk. He crushed the man's windpipe. As the Inquisitor collapsed, strength flowed out of the Franklin. Meacham dropped. Held up only by his chains, with a weak smile, he nodded towards Pug. Pug broke off the pain spell, and the warlord fell back from Ergeron. Pug commanded the magician to approach. The Great One's mind felt like a soft, malleable thing under Pug's magic control. And somehow Pug knew how to command the magician to act, while keeping aware of what he himself was doing. The magician began freeing Pug from his chains, while the warlord struggled to his feet, one hand free. Aksantukar staggered to the outer door. Pug made a decision. If he could be free of the bonds, he would handle any number of guards called in by the warlord. But he couldn't control 2 men, and he didn't think he could keep control of the magician long enough to destroy the warlord and free himself. Or could he? Then Pug realized the danger. The new magic was proving difficult, and his judgment was slipping. Why was he allowing the warlord to gain his freedom? The pain of the torture and exertion were taking an incredible toll, and Pug felt himself weakening by the moment. The warlord pulled open the door and screaming for the guards, and when it opened, Aksantukar grabbed a spear, and with a heave he struck Ergeron full in the back. The blow knocked the magician to his knees, before he could loosen Pug's other hand. It also had the effect of sending a psychic shock back to strike Pug. Pug screamed in concert with Ergeron's dying pain. Fog shrouded Pug's mind. Then something within cracked, and his thoughts became a sea of glittering shards as the mirrors of memory shattered. Scraps of past lessons, images of his family, smells, tastes, and sounds rang through his consciousness. Lights danced through his mind, first scattering motes of starlight, reflections of a new vistas within, then weaved and danced, forming a pattern, a circle, a tunnel, then a way. He plunged through the way and found himself upon a new plane of consciousness. New paths were walked, new understandings achieved. The path opened to him before, through pain and terror, was now his to walk at will. At last he stood in the command of those powers which were his legacy. His vision cleared, and he saw soldiers struggling on the stairs. Pug turned his attention to his remaining shackle upon his wrist. Suddenly he remembered an old lesson of Coogan's. With a caress of his mind, the hardened leather shackle was made soft and supple again, and he pulled his hand free. Pug concentrated on his magic-inhibiting bracelets, and they fell away, broken in half. He looked up at the stairs, and for the first time the full impact of what he saw registered. The warlord and his soldiers had fled the room as some sort of struggle took place above. A soldier in blue armor of the Kanzawi clan lay dead against the Imperial White. Pug quickly released Meacham, easing him to the ground. He was bleeding heavily from the leg wounds and cuts in his body. Pug sent Dominic a questing mental message. "Return, Dominic." Dominic's eyes opened at once and his shackles fell off. Pug said, "Tend to Meacham." Without asking for explanation, the monk turned to treat the wounds of the Franklin. Pug dashed up the stairs and ran to where Hochopepper lay imprisoned. He entered the cell, and the startled magician said, "What is it? I heard some noises outside." Pug bent over and changed the manacles to soft leather. "I don't know. Allies, I think. I suspect the Blue Wheel Party is attempting to free us." He pulled Hochopepper's hands free from the now soft restraints. Hochopepper stood on wobbly legs. "We must help them help us," he said with resolution. And then he considered his freedom and the softened restraints. "Malamba, how did you do that?" Passing through the door, Pug answered, "I don't know, Hocho. It will be something to discuss." Pug raced up the stairs towards the upper level of the palace, and in the central gallery of the warlord's palace, armed men struggled in hand-to-hand combat. Men in armor of various colors battled the warlord's imperial whites. Looking about the bloody combat, Pug saw Aksantukar fighting past struggling pairs of soldiers. 2 white-armored soldiers covered his retreat. Pug closed his eyes and reached out. His eyes opened, and he could see a visible hand of energy he had created. He could feel it as he could his own, as if he picked up a kitten by the neck. He reached out and gripped the warlord, raising him up. He drew the struggling, kicking man toward him. The soldiers halted their struggle at the sight of the warlord above them. Aksankuta, supreme warrior of the empire, shrieked in unashamed terror at the invisible force that had grabbed him. Pug pulled him back towards where he and Hocho stood. Some of the Imperial Whites recovered from their shock and their master's dilemma, and deduced the renegade magician must be the cause of their master's dilemma. Several broke off from their struggles with soldiers in coloured armour and ran to aid the warlord. Then a loud voice cried out, "Yakenda! 91 times Emperor!" Instantly every soldier in the room, regardless of which side he struggled for, dropped to the floor. Putting forehead against stone, the officers stood, with heads bowed. Only Hochopepa and Pug watched as the cortege of war chiefs, all in the armour of those who constituted the Blue Wheel Party, entered the room. In the forefront, wearing armour not seen in years, came Kamatsu, again, for the time, war chief of the Kanzawi clan. Forming up, they parted and allowed the Emperor to enter. Ishandar, supreme authority of the Empire, walked into the hall, resplendent in his ceremonial golden armour. He stalked to where Pug waited, the warlord still hanging mid-air above him, and surveyed the scene. At last he said, "Great one, you do deem to cause difficulty whenever you appear." He looked up at the warlord. "If you put him down, we can get to the bottom of this mess." Pug allowed the warlord to fall, striking the ground heavily. Erin, hello, Alan, welcome back. Sam, so very good to see you. Welcome in. Oop, I almost read entirely through the ads. I apologize, my friends. Forgot it was Tuesday and got confused that there wasn't Harry Potter. But hello, welcome in everyone. Everyone who can hear me will be done with ads in a minute here. So very glad that you could all join us tonight. Welcome in. I don't know if I missed anyone else coming in. Alan is here. Let's see, who else is here? You caught us mid-dinner, steak and mushroom nochi. That's very good. Mindy, I don't know if I said hello, but hello. It's good to see you. All right, looks like I got everyone. I did try to... I know, I appreciate it, Frost. I saw your message, and then... but I looked up too late. I'm also happy with my edits to Sunreal, minus that I need to iron out some descriptions. That is the work of being a writer. I wasn't going to come tonight. I just found out someone who was a light to this entire world should have met past last night. Can we give her a send-off, please? Her name is Angela, and I just know she's hanging around still until all her goodbyes are said. Absolutely, Milu. I won't have time for many songs tonight, but we'll sing a song in her honor as well. So, for me... okay, the ads are done. For Milu's friend Angela, who passed long before any would have liked to, we raise a glass. May her road forward be long and beautiful, and may her march to the next life be a great journey that she seeks with joy and love. And may all who remember her well, remember her with joy. And we raise our glasses and drink, and we stay bloodthirsty in honor of all those who passed before us. Cheers, my friends. Spectre, you said, I just want to say thank you. Your previous video on Chrome Croak helped inspire me. And now I'm writing an urban fantasy novel based in Ireland about him, you rock. Spectre Keen, you flatter me deeply. I'm so very glad that you enjoyed, and I can't wait to read your story. Of course, Milu, I hope that you're taking care of yourself in light. It is always sad when we lose those that we love, especially when they are young or when they are particularly close to us. But it is important to remember that we don't get to choose when we go. And while it is absolutely okay to be sad, the way we honor those who have passed is by celebrating them after they're gone. So we will be sad, but we will also be joyful that we had the privilege of knowing those who left before us. That is what our role as those who survive is, to carry on the stories of those who have gone on ahead. So, march kindly, Angela, into the next life. And Milo, if you have a particular song you'd like us to do for her in her honor at the end, please let us know. And in the meantime, just settle in and let some of your heart's heaviness find levity in the constant rampant silliness of the tavern. I'm going to have it written in my will that you read my eulogy, Castle. If you want, I can even stand at the back of your funeral in dark clothing with an entourage and not talk to anybody until your eulogy, and then we'll all leave mysteriously after I'm gone. I will miss her so much. Her sons are my age. She was my newest mum, but I'm so much in pain from an accident she never should have survived, but still doing so much joy in life. It's hard. It's always hard when we lose somebody suddenly. Let Marty and I entertain you. I can give you SpongeBob quotes if that helps. Erin, you are a constant light. I'll give you that. Alright, friends, let's return to Kelowon. Castle, can you dress like the Grim Reaper at my funeral, then point at the person the first person that stands and say you're next? Look, I don't believe in causing distress, but I do believe in making people ask questions. I will be mysterious at your funeral, but I will not be cruel, Matty. I'm probably going to be gone well before you are, though, Matty. Let's be honest. You're a young man still. I'll stand just for the giggles, right? Can you do me a favor, bud? Hit that like.
Also, since I'm out here right now, hello everybody.
Everett says hello, everyone.
It's the Hobgoblin.
When did you evolve into a hobgoblin?
That's a control. Wait, no, it's not. This is. I'm stupid. I'm dumb. Don't you think I'm stupid, dumb shot? I don't know why.
Bear, hello, you made it back. How did your errands go?
You can't be rude to yourself.
Everett the energetic, says Matty. All I want is for someone to take my phone when I die and text everyone that attended my funeral, thank you for coming. I should set up a service where I send mysterious texts to people after they pass away. I'll send mysterious but also wholesome texts to your loved ones, or even letters to your loved ones after you pass. It would be... I have a strange clause that will go in my will in that regard for my loved ones and for all of you, possibly, if I'm still doing this when I die. When I die, I need somebody to factory reset my Kindle. Don't want anybody to see all of that book talk content that you downloaded out of curiosity, right, Destiny? Cousin of mine used to have a running joke. Whoever died first, the other would dress as the Grim Reaper and just stand by the coffin at the funeral. If you live long enough to do that for me, I'll literally give you a hug in the afterlife. Oh, you guys are something else. Oh, it's definitely not out of curiosity. Oh, thank you, Bear. I appreciate you, brother. Let's see, we've got 6 pages left. I got 40 minutes to get there, so I better get hustling. Wombology is the study of wombo. I wombo. What is wombo, Erin? Well, you just said womboing. Wombology is the study of wombo. So you are a studier of the great art of wombo, I suppose. Makes perfect sense. All right, you're womboing. I understand. I understand completely. I don't. I do. I actually have no clue. That is an amazing tale, Malamba, said Ishandar to Pug. He sat on the pillows occupied earlier that day by the warlord, sipping a cup of the warlord's chocha. It would be simple to say I believe you and that all is forgiven, but the dishonor visited upon me by those you call elves and dwarves is an impossible thing to forget. Around him stood war chiefs and the clans of the Blue Wheel, and the magician Elgahar. Hocho Pepper said, "If the light of heaven would permit me, remember that they were but tools, soldiers, if you will, in the game of Shahar. That is, Macross was attempting to prevent the arrival of the enemy is but another concern. That he is responsible for the betrayal rids you of the responsibility of avenging yourself upon anyone but Macross, and he is presumed dead. It is a moot issue." The Emperor said, "How's your pepper? Your tongue is as facile as your allies." He referred to the water snake-like creature known for its supple movement. "I will not be punitive without good cause, but I am also reluctant to take my former stance of conciliation towards the kingdom." Pug said, "Majesty, that would not be wise at this time, in any event." When Ishandar looked interested in the comment, Pug continued, "Well, I hope that someday our two nations may meet again as friends. At this time, there are more pressing matters that demand attention. For the short term, it must be as if the two worlds were never rejoined." The Emperor sat up. "From what little I understand of such matters, I suspect you're correct. The larger issues need to be resolved. I must make a decision shortly that may forever change the course of Serrani history." He lapsed into silence. For a long time he held his own counsel. And then... Yeah? Can you not, sir? There's water in the dog's bowl and he's got a bowl of water. He just wants you to turn on the sink is what he wants.
Why? You trim his nails. There's no water in your bowl.
Oh, Everett said that he had watered the dog. Go boot him off the PlayStation.
Just like drink it already.
Give me just a second, Prince. I'll be right back. Never mind, you've got it.
Got it. Miguel says that the plane will be on time.
Goodbye, everyone. I'll see you all in therapy, says Erin. I wombo. Erin, I think you need sleep.
I thought she wasn't gonna come in because school started.
That is what I was understanding, but now it seems like Erin is having a complete and total adorable mental breakdown in chat. Screaming about her wombo. I'm just making SpongeBob quotes, she says. Oh. Alright, where was I? For a long time he held his own counsel and then said, "When Komatsu and the others came to me, telling me of your return and your suspicion of some black terror of Serrani origin upon your world, I wished to ignore it all. I cared for nothing of your problems or those of your world. I was even indifferent to the possibility of once more invading your land, I was fearful of acting again. For I had lost much face before with the High Council, after the attack on your world.
He seemed lost in thought for a brief moment.
Your world was lovely, what little I saw before the battle.
He sighed, his green eyes fastening on Pug.
Melamber, had Elgahar not come to the palace, confirming what your allies in the Blue Wheel Party reported, you most likely would be dead, and I would soon follow after. Had Axantukar on his way to a bloody civil war. He gained the white and gold only because of the outrage against the betrayal. You prevented my death, if not some greater calamity for the Empire. I think that warrants some consideration, though you know the turmoil in the Empire is just beginning.
Pug said, I am enough a product of the Empire to understand the game of the Council will become even more vicious. Ishindar looked outside the window, where the body of Axantukar hung twisting in the wind.
I will have to consult the historians, but that is the first warlord hung by an emperor, I believe.
Hanging was still the ultimate shame and punishment for a warrior.
Still, as he no doubt planned the same fate for myself, I don't think I am likely to have a rebellion, at least not this week.
The war chiefs of the High Council, who were in attendance, looked at one another. Finally, Komatsu said,
Light of Heaven, if I may.
The war party retires in confusion.
The betrayal of the warlord was robbed them even of the base for negotiation within the High Council. Even as we speak, the war party is no more, and its clans and families will be meeting to discuss which parties to join and regain some shred of their influence. For now, the moderates rule.
The Emperor shook his head and, in surprisingly strong tones, said,
No, honoured lord, you're wrong. In the Suranuani, I rule.
He stood, surveying those around him.
Until these matters Melamber has brought to our attention are resolved, and the Empire is truly safe, or the threat has been shown to be false, the High Council is recessed. There will be no new warlord until I have commanded an election within the Council. Until I decree otherwise, I am the law.
Hotopepa said,
Majesty, the Assembly. As before, be warned, Great One. See to your brothers, if another black robe is ever discovered to be involved in a plot against my house, the status of the Great Ones outside of the law will end. Even should I be forced to pit all armies of the Empire against your magic might, even to the utter ruination of the Empire, I will not allow any challenge to the supremacy of the Emperor again. Is that understood?
Hotopepa said,
It will be done, Majesty. Elgahar's renunciation of his brothers and the warlord's acts will give the others in the assembly pause to think. I shall bring the matter before the membership.
The Emperor said to Pug,
Great One, I cannot instruct the assembly to reinstate you, nor am I entirely comfortable having you around. But until this matter is resolved, you are free to come and go as long as you need. When you again depart for your homeworld, inform us of your findings. We shall be willing to accommodate you somewhat in preventing the destruction of your world, if we may. Now,
he started for the door.
I must return to my palace. I have an empire to rebuild.
Pug watched as the others left. Komatsu came up to him and said,
Great One, it seems to have ended well for a time. For a time, old friend. Seek to aid the light of heaven, for his life may be a short one when tonight's decrees are made public tomorrow.
The Lord of the Shinzawi bowed before Pug.
Your will, Great One.
To Hotopepa, Pug said,
Let's fetch Dominic and Meacham from where they rest and go to the assembly, Hocho. We have work to do. In a moment, for I have a question for Elgahar.
The stout magician faced the former warlord's pit.
Why the sudden reversal of position? I had always counted you your brother's tool.
The slender magician replied,
What Melamber carried warning of, upon his homeworld, gave me pause to think. I spent time weighing all possibilities. When I suggested the obvious answer to Melamber,
He concurred. It was a risk too grave to ignore. Compared to this, all other matters were inconsequential.
Hector Pepper turned to face Pug.
I do not understand. What does he speak of?
Pug sagged in fatigue and something more. A deep hidden terror coming to the fore.
I hesitate to even speak of it.
He looked at those about him.
Elgahar concluded something I suspected but was afraid to admit, even to myself.
For a moment he was silent, and those in the room seemed to hold their breath, and then he said, "The enemy
has returned."
Flavorsaurus, hello, hello, welcome in. So very good to see you. So glad you could join us. Or is it Flavors Roos? Flavors are us, perhaps? TikTok what? Jaeger, how's it going, bud? How you feeling? I mean, technically words are... Oh, yeah, well, technically all words are made up. Flavors are us. All right, excellent. Well, welcome in. I don't know if you've been in before, but so very glad that you could join us. I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore. Every now and again, I read you all a bedtime story. Tonight we are in Silverthorn by Raymond D. Feist. We only have a little bit of time left this evening. I'm not usually this... you must have had an exceptional amount of sugar today. They came in with Una. Oh, excellent, excellent. That is the lady of the tavern. She is much prettier than I am, so I apologize if that's what you came back expecting. She is much more lovely and much less bearded, as it turns out.
But you have a beard to offer, so...
Yeah, you are much more lovely and much less bearded. That is the change. Charmed Pixie, thank you for the follow over on TikTok. Welcome to the tavern. So very glad that you could join us. Grab your seats. I'm emotionally multi-flavored. That is a very human thing to be. Emotionally multi-flavored. Alright, let's continue, friends. We've only got about 30 minutes left. Pug pushed back on the lever. Pug pushed back the leather-covered volume from him and said, "Another dead end." He passed a hand over his face, closing tired eyes. He had so much to deal with and a sense of fleeting time. The discovery of his ability as a lesser path magician he kept to himself. There was a side of his nature he had never suspected. And he wished more private conditions under which to explore these revelations. Sir, what do you need?
It might be his box.
Hojo Pepper and Elgahar looked up from where they sat reading. Elgahar had worked as hard as any, demonstrating some wish to make amends.
These records are in shambles, Malamba,
he commented. Pug agreed.
I told Holcho 2 years ago that the Assembly had become lax in its arrogance. This confusion is but one example.
Pug adjusted his black robe. When his reasons for returning were made known, he had, on a motion by his old friends, seconded by Elgahar, been reinstated to full membership without hesitation. Of the members in attendance, only a few abstained and none voted in opposition. Each had stood upon the tower of testing and had seen the rage and might of the enemy. Shimon, one of Pug's oldest friends in the assembly and his former instructor, entered with Dominic. Since the encounter with the warlord's inquisitor the night before, the priest had shown remarkable recuperative powers. He had used his magic healing arts on Meacham and Pug, but something in the way they worked prevented him from using them upon himself. However, he had also possessed a knowledge to instruct magicians at the assembly in the concocting of poultices that prevented festering in the cuts and burns that he had endured.
Malamba, this priest friend of yours is a wonder. He has something marvellous in the means of cataloguing our works here. Dominic said.
I've only just started to share what we have learned at Sarth. There is a great deal of confusion here, but it is not as bad as it appears on casual inspection.
Hocho Pepper stretched.
What has me concerned is that there is a little here that we don't already know. It is as if the vision we shared upon the tower is the earliest recollection of the enemy. No other has been recorded.
That may be true, said Pug. Remember that most of the truly great magicians perished at the Golden Bridge, leaving only apprentices and lesser magicians behind. It may have been years before any attempt to keep records commenced. Meacham entered, carrying a large bundle of ancient tomes, heavily bound in treated skins. Pug indicated a spot on the floor nearby, and Meacham put them down. Pug opened the bundle and handed copies of the works around. Elgilhar carefully opened one, the book's binding creaking as he did.
Gods of Suanurani, how old are these works? Amongst the oldest in the assembly,
Dominic said.
It took Meacham and myself an hour just to locate them, and another to dig them out,
Shimon said.
This is almost another dialect, and so ancient that there are verb usages here and inflections I've never heard of.
Hocho said.
Melamber, listen to this. And when the bridge vanished, still did Avray insist on counsel.
Elgahar said.
The Golden Bridge.
Pug and the others stopped what they were doing and listened to Hocho Pepper continue reading.
Of the Ulstwanabi, those remaining were but 13, numbering Avri, Marley, Karan, the list goes on, and little comfort among them, but Marley spoke her words of power and calmed their fears. We are upon the world made for us by Chakan. Could that be an ancient form of Chochakan? And we all endure, those who watched say we are safe from the darkness. The darkness, can it be?
Pug reread the passage.
This is the same name used by Rogan after his vision. It's too far a stretch to be called a coincidence.
There's our proof. The enemy is somehow involved in the attempt on Prince Arutha. Dominic said.
There is something else there as well.
Elgar said.
Yes. Who are those who watched?
Pug pushed away the book, the toll of the last day bringing on sleep unbidden. Of all those who had searched through the day with him, only Dominic remained. The Ashapian monks seemed able to disregard fatigue at will. Pug closed his eyes, intent on resting for a short while only. His mind had been occupied on many things, and many things he had put aside. Now images flickered past, but soon none seemed to abide. Soon Pug was asleep, and while he slept, he dreamed. He stood upon the roof of the assembly again. He wore a grey robe of a trainee. As he was shown the tower steps by Shimon, he knew he must mount, again to face the storm, again to pass the test, which would gain him the rank of Great One. He mounted and climbed in his dream, seeing something at each step, a string of flashing images. A stover bird struck the water for a fish, its scarlet wings flashing against the blue sky and water. Then other images came flooding in. Hot jungles where slaves toiled in clash of warriors, a dying soldier, Thun running over the tundra of the north, a young wife seducing a guard of her husband's household, a spice merchant at his stall. Then his vision travelled to the north, and he saw ice fields, bitter cold, and swept by steel-edged wind. He could smell the bitterness of age here. For from within the tower of snow and ice, figures emerged bundled against the wind. Human-shaped, they walked with a smooth tread that marked them other than human. They were beings old and wise in ways unknown to men. They sought a sign in the sky. They looked up and they watched. They watch. Watchers. Pug sat up and opened his eyes.
What is it, Pug? Said Dominic. Get the others, he said. I know.
Pug stood before the others, his black robes billowing in the morning breeze.
You'll have no one with you?
Hocho Pepper asked again.
No, Hocho. You can help by getting Dominic and Meacham back to my estate, so they may return to Midkemia. I've passed along all I've learned here for Colgan and the others, with messages for all who need to know what we've discovered so far. I may be seeking a legend, trying to find these watchers in the north. You can help more by getting my friends back.
Elgahar stepped forward.
If permitted, I would accompany your friends to your world.
Hug said.
Why? The Assembly has little need of one caught up in the affairs of the Warlord, and from what you've said, there are great ones in training at your academy who need instruction. Count it an act of appeasement. I will remain there, at least for a while, continuing the education of these trainees.
Pug considered.
Very well. Colgan will instruct you in what needs to be done. Always remember that the rank of Great One means nothing on Midkemia. You will be simply one among a community. It will prove difficult.
Elgahar said.
I will endeavour.
Hocho Pepper said.
That's a capital idea. I've long wondered about this barbaric land you hail from, and I could use a vacation from my wife. I'll go too.
Hocho, said Pug, laughing.
The academy is a rough place, devoid of your usual comforts. He stepped forward. Never mind that, Malamba. You'll require allies on your world. I may speak lightly, but your friends will need help soon. The enemy is something beyond the experience of any of us. We'll start now to combat it. As for the discomfort, well, I'll manage.
Besides, said Pug,
you've been licking your lips over Macross's library ever since I've spoken of it.
Meacham shook his head.
Him and Colgan, 2 peas in a pod,
Hocho Pepper said.
What is a pea?
You'll discover soon, old friend. Pug embraced Hocho and Shimon, took hands with Meacham and Dominic, and bowed to the other members of the assembly.
Follow the instructions on activating the rift as I've written them, and be certain to close it once through. The enemy still seek the rift to enter our worlds. I'll go to the Shinzawi estate in the northernmost destination, where I can use a pattern. From there I'll take horse and cross the Thun tundra. If the Watchers still exist, I shall find them, and return to Midkemia with what I know of the enemy. Then shall we meet again. Until then, my friends, care for one another.
Pug incanted the required spell, and with a shimmer he was gone. The others stood about a while. Finally, Hocho Pepper said,
Come, we must make ready.
He looked at Dominic, Meacham, and Elgahar.
Come, my friends.
And so ends Chapter 17 of Silverthorn by Raymond E. Feist, my friends. Oh, Castle, before I forget, would Sunreal's powers cost be okay to be that she threatens to erase herself from time itself every time she uses them? I'm just weighing the best possible costs while keeping the suggestion in mind. Hocho Pepper. Is that not how you say his name, babe? How do you say his name? So, Matty, what I would say for getting the best possible... You want it to have an emotional impact. You want it to be something that she'll feel the weight of as she does it. You don't want it to be something that is a random chance. Like, if it drains some of her life every time that she uses it, that's something that can be visible. It's something that the reader can see. You don't want it to just be some sort of ethereal threat, right? It's not like death will someday come for you, right? That's something that we all sort of... Oh, Dr. Pepper. No, Hocho Pepper. Erin was... I understand now what was going on there. I thought Erin was just asking if I had Dr. Pepper, because I usually do. No, she was talking about Hocho Pepper. Yeah, Hocho Pepper. So Hocho Pepper. But you want whatever the impact of it is to make sense in regard to the power, and then you want the power itself, whatever the cost is, to be something that is visible, something that is a looming and impending threat that can be seen or observed by the reader, as well as by the people in the world. That's what's going to give you the biggest impact in regard to the cost of the power. Yeah, Pug often shortens his name to Hocho. Milu, did you have a song that you'd like to hear for your friend? Usually, traditionally, for folks who have passed, that are not members of the clan, members of the family, we will we'll sing songs like "Red Is the Rose." It's what we actually sang that one at my mother's wake. Bravo, my lord! Once my novel is published, would you be interested in narrating the audiobook? Your take on Cromcroch would be very chilling and viscerally ancient. Absolutely, Spectre, absolutely. It would be an honor and a privilege. Honestly, most of what you do, she would have loved. She's very spiritual, celebrated Yule, etc. So anything you believe is good, a good choice would be beautiful. I think that the lady and I doing Red is the Rose together would probably be a good send-off. And what's another one? Let's get one more, because I do have to hop up here in just a minute. So let me get one more song recommendation and we'll end on Red is the Rose. What about you, Lovey? Do you have a song recommendation? Huh? No? Well, we're gonna do Red is the Rose. You and I'll do that together. Parting Glass, I think, is a wonderful recommendation, Frost. We can do that as well. So Parting Glass and Red is the Rose. I think that is a wonderful way to end off for the evening. And again, everyone, I apologize that we're so short and so fast this evening. The lady and I have an obligation that we could not rearrange, so let's go ahead and get the songs in then. Alright, we're going to pause the music there, and we'll start with Parting Glass. I think I figured it out. Maybe she visibly ages and gets closer to death despite being a semi-immortal being. That would be a good one. Margot Tick, hello, welcome in. So very glad that you could join us. We're at the end, sadly, but you can join us for a couple of songs before you head out. Paying homage to a dear friend of Milu. So raise a glass, friends, and let us sing in honor of Angela. I'm from Brazil. Well, welcome in. I'll call you Margot. Welcome in, Margot. I am Castle. This is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a bedtime story. Tonight we were reading Silverthorn, and now we're singing some songs. But this is a tavern at the end of the world where all stories eventually come to rest. And because you have stumbled in here, it means that you sought a story. So make sure you mark us on your map so you can find your way back again. Alright, join me for Parting Glass, friends. Sadly, I won't be in the next stream in 2 days. I will be in Sydney for my Uncle Kev's funeral. That's a perfectly acceptable reason to miss a night, Bear. Make sure you raise a glass for all of us in honor of your uncle. Alright, here we go, friends. Holy Goblin's Castle, I never heard the notification go off, was busy, right? That's alright, Sage. We had to start early tonight because of an obligation the lady and I have. We're actually ending right now, but we're singing a song in honor of a friend of Milu's who just passed. of all the money that e'er I had, I've spent it in good company, and all the harm that e'er I've done, alas, it was to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be to you all. So fill to me the parting glass, and drink a health whate'er befalls. Then gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be to you all. Of all the comrades that e'er I had, they're sorry for my going away, and all the sweethearts that e'er I had, they'd wish me one more day to stay. But since it fell unto my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be to you all. So fill to me the parting glass, and drink a health whate'er befalls. Then gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be to you all. La da 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 da, da 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 da, la da 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 da, da 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 da. But since it fell unto my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be to you all. So fill to me the parting glass, and drink a health whate'er befalls. Then gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be to you all. Good night and joy be to you all. Margot, I love this, so sweet, but I don't know exactly what you're singing, but it's a warm heart. I'm glad that that's conveyed. Santana the legend, welcome in, my friend. All right, my love, are you prepared to join me for a duet? We will sing Red is the Rose, the lady and I together. And then quickly afterwards we Must have scorn. I knew I was getting all good news. So I knew getting all that good news was too good to be true. The universe has to balance itself out. Also, I've learned to give Irish goodbyes at the ends of my streams. Have you?
What does that mean?
I'm curious what that means as well. Are you flipping people off as they go? Is that what's happening? Our septic system is messed up. Ah, that's the worst. That's the worst, Santana. You have my condolences to your yard.
Hubert, we need to leave in 6 minutes. So take the cat back to get your dad from the airport. I believe you can
Alright, you ready?
Yeah.
And here we sing Red is the Rose as a parting song to Milu's dear friend Angela. Come over the hills, my bonny Irish lass. Come over the hills to your darling. You choose the road, love, and I'll make the vow, and I'll be your true love forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Boyne. But my love is fairer than any. 'Twas down by Killarney's green woods that we strayed, when the moon and the stars, they were shining. The moon, it shone its rays on her locks of golden hair, and she swore she'd be my love forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Boyne. But my love is fairer than any. It's not for the parting that my sister pains. It's not for the grief of my mother. It's all for the loss of my bonny Irish lass, that my heart is breaking forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Boyne. But my love is fairer than any.
Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Boyne. But my love is fairer than any.
Oh, my love is fairer than any. These these are traditional ballads and shanties of the Irish people. So Celtic ballads and shanties is what you'd look for, Margot. Thank you all for sending Angela off in a way I know she would have loved. With all of our love that is possible, may she rest well and may her journey be long and beautiful. Alright, my friends, I hate to leave in haste, but that is where we must end for the night. Valkyrie of Chaos, it's so good to see you. It has been a while since you've been in, but I'm glad that you made it. Yes, I'll put it in the chat, Margot. Yes. Alright, my friends, this is where we must end for today. It was so good to see you all. I appreciate you all for coming in to support. I will be back on Thursday, and the lady and the boy will be on Twitch only on Tuesday. Margot, I hope that we'll get to see you back again. We do storytelling every Tuesday and Thursday. And Sunday, it is myself and the lovely lady of the tavern. We do storytelling every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, and then we play games with the community and do story games on Mondays and Wednesdays. Thank you all for being here. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, my friends. Thank you for your support and love. For all of you who show up to every one of these story times and who come out and watch our videos for the stories that we do, it is because of you that we are able to make stories and share the magic of the world with you all, and we deeply appreciate you. So until the next time, my friends, that we see you here in the tavern, I will bid you all stay bloodthirsty, and we'll see you in the next one. Good night.
What? I make you a sub? Like, not like a sandwich. Let's try it. Thanks for the raid. Oh my god, we just started. Thank you so much for the raid. What the heck?
Attack! Oh, wait, they're friendly. Welcome in, raiders.